like for me, say you're a gym brand, you need to work out. So we're going to do 1 post a week on the gym wear. We're going to do 1 post a week on workouts. We're going to do 1 post a week on post-workout foods, or what I have had in a day, because that's your inside scoop. That's your personality, because you're showing what you've eaten in a day. You don't have to do that. It's not really anything to do with business. But people are getting the inside scoop and the personality. And then within that, you're showing your gym wear, you're showing your gym supplements, whatever it is, and people are going, so where did you get those leggings from? Where did you get those supplements from? And it's about organically adding your products into it.
I like to call my unlimited content matrix, and essentially you break your business down into 4 pillars, right? You're welcome. Before I even start, you break your business down into 4 pillars. You say, okay, let's say for example it's Crunches by Susie. She has really likes, fashion, right? She really likes hair, and there's another 2. So you break down hair and fashion, and you get their keywords. So you say, okay, fashion, we have models, we have material, we have this, that, and the other. And then for each of those keywords, you'd break that down into the who, what, when, where, how, and why.
What's sustainable happens quickly. Nothing. Like very few of you can show me an example of something that is sustainable, that is built quickly. I look at a plant. You look at a tree. Look, the biggest tree in the forest here. How long has it been there for? Thousands of years. It's not coincidence. You look at buildings. How long did they build a building? How long does it stay standing for? Look at a baby. If a baby is born too soon, it's at risk of dying. Everything in life. There's not one thing in life here that can happen quickly and is sustainable. So when I tell you the post here for the next 6 months here, that's me using the laws of life and nature and what we see around us to understand that nothing in life that is built quickly is sustainable.
I love the psychology of it. And I think sometimes with digital marketing, we forget that it's the same thing. It's just using different platforms, and the speed in which the digital platforms allow us to market to our audience compared to traditional offline is just incomparable. It's just crazy fast. And also the accessibility of how many people we can reach. And so it can be quite overwhelming when we think about the bigger picture of digital marketing, but really when it comes down to it, it's about the psychology that we've always known. And that goes right back to, hey, I've got some of these carrots. I've noticed that you haven't got any carrots. What about these? Should we swap some carrots for some of your potatoes? So it's about the psychology of somebody wanting or needing something and then somebody else being able to provide.
We call it edutainment. So it's education and entertainment. And don't be scared by the entertainment word, because entertainment is broad. Anyone can find anything interesting. It doesn't need to be humorous or anything like that. Teach us about this, and you can do that with a hook. So one tip for video content is you need to capture someone's attention in the first 3 to 5 seconds. You need a hook, and that hook it needs to draw in that person. So on TikTok, you can write a cover title on your video. If your service is beneficial in some way, a hook on that cover title could be, this is what really saves me time when I'm ... That's a hook, because now I want to know what saves you time. So this is where services can really play up to, how has this been beneficial for you? Why should you be parting money? How can this change my routine in the best way possible? So that is everything that they need to be pushing.
But once you've done that, we're live. Good. All right, I'm waiting for my. Oh gosh, I look like a boss the way I'm just telling you to. I'm just looking at myself now. All right, let's be serious, Jacob. All right. Good morning, guys. Good afternoon. Good evening, wherever you're watching from. Welcome to another episode of UKBF Talks, and today we're going to be focusing on research and development tax credit, R&D tax credit, and it's a very, very specific conversation, a very, very specific topic, something that I don't know anything about, or I'm not even going to lie to you. Hence why I've brought the experts in. I've brought the big boys in. And today, you're probably expecting Sam Mills, but Sam Mills, because he had a bit of a mare with his haircut, he's decided to bring in the big guns, and we're joined today by his colleague Mel. So we're going to turn the camera over to them for them to introduce himself, and you can get a look at Sam's trim as well.
Yes, thank you very much for that, Jacob. Yeah,
it's all right. It's all right. How are you guys doing?
Yes, fine, thank you. Yeah, how are you?
I'm doing good. I've got my legs out. The cameras can't see it, so I'm very fine. I'm very comfortable.
Yes,
very chilled.
Yeah, we can see that. Yeah, lovely PlayStation socks as well.
Cheers.
Brilliant.
Do you know what I mean? But today, we're going to be touching on R&D tax credit and the benefit and importance of businesses to be aware of everything around this. But before we do that, one thing that I like to do before we dive into any conversation is I like to find out who you are, because for all I know, you could be an alien, right? So who the heck are you, and why should we listen to you?
All right. So I'm Sam. I'm Sam from MPA. We are R&D tax credit specialists. Predominantly been R&D tax credit specialists for now over 15 years. So we've been in and around the market for quite a while now. We know our stuff. Doing over 700 claims a year, but R&D tax credit specialist is our main area. We do other things as well, but in terms of the R&D scheme, with its changes recently, we are trying to get out as much help and support as we can. R&D predominantly is for any company that is innovative, that is creating something new, that is creating something that's bringing something to a UK market that is taxable by a UK government that's not been done before, potentially developing on something that's already been done and developing it for a specific capability that's not been done before. And anything that's had an advancement in science or technology is here. We're here to talk about today, and to help educate those business owners and the seniors in those businesses whether they would actually qualify for R&D.
Yeah, no, that's very quite insightful. Hence why I said very quite insightful. I'm still trying to get a bit more out of you, Sam. Okay, to you, Mel. Who are you?
Hi, I'm Mel. So I'm part of the MPA team. As Sam said, we are a local professional services firm, and we're here to support businesses on their growth journey. So we're here to add value, demystify all the talk about R&D that you're currently reading, and make that clear and help you with that supportive growth that your business needs. So my passion is innovation and supporting businesses, and I've been doing that for over 20 years in various different ways.
That's great, and I'm really happy you're here
Thank
today.
you,
Mel.
it's a pleasure.
So we're going to get straight into it. Gosh, this feels like an exam.
Yeah.
So,
It does to us.
let's see if you know your stuff. So what are research and development tax credits, and how can they benefit businesses in various industries?
Okay, so first and foremost, R&D tax credit is an innovative scheme put out by the government. It's been going over 20 years now. It is to help and support businesses with their business growth in the products and services they're putting out, and really to mitigate the risk in that those products that they are putting out, they're not going to be for nothing. So essentially, it's to help them to grow into the next year. Potentially, they may need to employ another person the next year. They want to grow with another product or something like that. They want to develop what they've already got. HMRC and the government will reward you for that risk that you've taken, and they reward that by a tax credit back to your business, either taking it off your corporation tax or as a tax credit back into your business. But that's here, obviously, what we're here to talk about today.
Yeah.
I think one of the key words there, Jacob, is in different industries. So it can apply to various different industries. So we're not going to just talk about one specific industry here. As long as you are creating something new that hasn't been seen out there before, no one's seen or done, you're advancing technology, you're making something better, faster, more accurate, then that is worth exploring as R&D.
Yeah. Just to touch on what you just said there, Mel, you said as long as you're doing something different, as long as you're innovating.
Yes.
What can quantify innovation? So if, for example, we're going to do some later on in the conversation, I do something called, Jeremiah, what do I call it? The persona game. That's why Jeremiah's here.
Did we know about this?
So in the
This is set up.
in the persona game, I basically I give different sorts of businesses, and I ask you what that sort of business could benefit from R&D tax credit,
Yeah.
right? So for example, if I am Jacob, the flower expert.
Okay, yeah.
And I have a machinery which can churn out flowers or make flowers beautiful, so that I can obviously get it out to customers quicker, make more money, right? What sort of innovation? I'm putting you on the spot here, but what sort of innovation does it need to be massive, or can it be something that's literally like baby steps?
You're probably going to build on that innovation, aren't you? Because you're going to have a concept and then you're going to think, okay, I'm going to put this bit of the machine together, and then you might add another bit of the machine. So it's probably going to be a step-by-step, like you say, baby steps,
Yep.
anyhow, which you will do not even over 1 year. It might be over several years that you'll keep enhancing that machine.
Yep.
When you talked about flowers, the first thing I thought of was sort of like STEM production. So taking parts, so more on a scientific part, so that could be research and developing. So you're going to create or make a certain type of flower with stems. You're going to spend a lot of time researching, developing, putting bits of stems together and enhancing that. So it's all worth exploring, and then it depends on what costs are associated to that.
Absolutely.
Which you can claim and what would qualify in an R&D tax credit claim. That's where the tax credit scheme will come in, because it might well be that doesn't really cost you anything. Only your time, and you don't get paid because you're the founder of the business, so you're doing this on a bootstrap to start with, so you wouldn't really have a claim there, or a worthwhile claim. But we're there to go through what would count as qualifying expenditure, what has it actually cost you to put that machinery together. So that's where our expertise comes into it, and our analysts.
So sorry, Sam. Go on.
Sorry. Yeah, just to touch on what Mel was saying there. It doesn't matter which industry you're in, as long as you are creating an advancement within science or technology within your industry, to eventually then create an advancement in your field, and you've overcome technical challenges whilst doing so, then potentially you would have a reason to claim. It all depends on the capability of what you're trying to do and the output that you're trying to make. For what reason did you build your machine to get to that level your business is now? For what reason did you need to build that machine, and why is it innovative? Why has no one else done it before? All these questions that we would ask a business owner. Hopefully the questions would be answered in a way that would structure a claim for you. But for example, if you was just going on the STEM process there, if you were creating a machine that was able to bring out more flowers or something like that, if it's an advancement and it's not been done before, and it takes your business from small SME to large, then potentially you would have a reasonable claim there. The things that you'd put behind that claim is the sort of thing that we would help with, and we would help and support collating information such as salaries, time and effort put into it, things like that. But of course we'll go on to that later. But that would be what we'd look at in that industry anyway.
No, that's really good to know, because I guess when somebody hears research and development, R&D, you're thinking of tech company, you're thinking of giants, right? But obviously our audience are small businesses, they're startups. If we're aware that we're able and we're in the position to also claim on these things as well, it's very, very good to know. So it's good. I guess my next question is, I can tick that off because you guys did a good job with that.
Well, we try.
How does the eligibility for R&D tax credits differ across different countries or regions?
So in terms of the UK, the eligibility criteria from HMRC is very straightforward. It's are you creating an advancement within science and technology? Tick.
Yeah.
Are you overcoming technical challenges? That's a key point, mainly because they like to see that it hasn't been an easy road. They like to see that you've had to go back to the drawing board. You've had to test and trial what you're trying to bring out. You've had to overcome technical challenges whilst doing so.
Yeah.
And coming on to the third point, it brings it in quite nicely. You as a competent professional that has been in the field for a number of years have not used your known knowledge, and as we all know that known knowledge is not part of the R&D scheme at all. You're not able to claim for known knowledge. So you as a competent professional would come into, let's say, for example, an engineering firm and not be able to readily deduce the answer to what you're trying to put out to create your advancement. It's that process of testing and trialing, going back to the drawing board and potentially failing several times, and the time and effort that it's taken you to do that and get to where you are. Those are the three main criteria that HMRC look for, is that you have overcome technical challenges, a competent professional can't readily deduce what you're doing, and you have created an advancement an advancement in science or technology.
What keeps you awake at night? What is your headache in your challenge?
Yeah.
And going back to UK regions, it doesn't matter where you are in the country, it is the same claim process. You have to be a UK company, which I'm guessing all the watchers here are today, but it is for UK.
We get the odd that are from Mars, you know.
With your science links and your space links, yeah.
What I was going to say is the innovation process, is it subjective? So if I think that it's going to change the world, if I think that it's going to advance something within my field, what do I need to do to convince the person that's going to make the difference, that's going to actually put it through, that it's an acceptable thing to put through?
Okay, so innovation, whilst it could be, I suppose, subjective, the other part of it would be quite tangible, whereby you have a product that at the end of it that has created an advancement in your field by going, so say for example, one piece of software talking to another piece of software, they're not plug and play. So you needed to create that one piece of software that talks to both areas.
Yeah.
That piece of software you needed to start from scratch. So there's no two ways about it. That would be innovation.
Yeah.
Where if, for example, you're going on to the fuel sector, innovation zero, let's say, fuel sector, hydrogen is a huge part of innovation at the moment.
Yeah.
That's quite, I mean, I'm not an expert in hydrogen or anything, but that's quite a subjective field at the moment, whereby people would come in and say that I could change the world with hydrogen, but they haven't done so yet.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to, because I know that some people were thinking, oh, I've got a great idea, I think this might work, but how do I know it's something that's going to be viable to be able to access the tax credit for the research and development of it?
You'd need to have spent the money first.
Okay.
That's the main thing. You need to have put time and effort into testing and trialing your product. You cannot claim for anything that you haven't done yet. So it's very much you claim on the expenditure that you have made.
Yeah.
If you feel like you have something that you could change the world with, all the best to you. Let's try and change it. But
it doesn't have to be that, change the world stuff.
No.
It's just something that you've created, or you've made something better. Yeah. So you've designed this table different and it's going to fold away, or do something different that it hasn't been able to do. So there's lots of different ways. I think the biggest thing is also the cost side. So when we're putting in a claim, we're rewarding you for your risk and the costs for your research and development time. And if there were no costs associated particularly, or there might be a couple of hundred, you wouldn't put a claim in for that. It just wouldn't be worth your time regarding reward and risk associated to it. But if you're employing developers within your payroll, or you're taking on subcontractors to do this work, then that, you're paying for that expertise as well, for developers or engineers within your business. That's the sort of cost that you can claim a percentage of, and the time that they've spent within that project. So it's not their whole salary, it is the percentage of time.
Absolutely.
So it's a bit, there's no hard and fast rules really. It's looking at each business, each project, and the business setup as well. No,
that's good to know. I guess another question. Sorry, I'm getting stuck in now.
Yeah, you're excited now.
Let's say I did something 2 years ago, right? Is there a cutoff point where I'm able to claim for something, even though I did something innovative 2 years ago, or a year ago, or last week? Does it have to be something that I'm doing in the future, I'm doing now, or is it historical? Can it be historical?
Yeah, I get it. So currently you can go back 2 years, two financial years, and look, everything has to be in your P&L. Okay, so you would have had to have produced them accounts.
Yes.
So sometimes you might have this idea, you haven't actually formed your limited company, but you've been doing some sort of research and groundwork, inventing. So that obviously wouldn't count. It has to be in your P&L. So at the end of your financial year, we can have a look at what projects and work you've done and what costs were associated to it. And it does have to be, all the costs have to be in your P&L.
Yeah, no, that's good. We're already getting some questions coming in. But let me get through my questions first. David,
we might answer them.
David T. Okay, do you know what? I'll ask you a question. Don't worry. If my company does approved research for the NHS, can I claim the fee for doing this as VAT free?
That'll be a tax question for our tax analyst, I would have thought. Not something that would be on a low level.
You won't be able to claim back the VAT. The VAT on his...
Yeah, so I said, if my company does approved research for the NHS, can I claim the fee for doing this as VAT free?
I don't think so.
I wouldn't like to sort of give a definite answer on that. But when you're doing work for someone else, so who is claiming the R&D? Would it be the NHS or would it be him? So you can't both claim it. So if I'm an engineering company, but I want to go out and get someone to design something for me, who's claiming that R&D? Who's taking that risk? So that's a completely different conversation to have, and to look at the whole situation in that instance of working together.
Do you guys have may you know anybody maybe within your team or someone that may be able to help David?
Can we get back to David? Like if he puts his details in, then we will answer him personally.
Absolutely.
And we can send that out.
Sorry, David.
I don't want to say something that's incorrect.
No.
As you probably just heard, David, we want to be as accurate and as helpful as possible. So if you did register through Eventbrite for this event, we're going to be sending some follow-up emails with the contact details for these guys. So shoot across any questions you have, and I'm sure they'll be able to give you some assistance on that. But thank you for the question, David. Keep them coming. I guess the next question that I had was, are there specific criteria businesses must meet?
Yes. So again, it was coming onto the advancement in science and tech. Overcoming technical challenges, and of course competent professional not able to readily deduce an answer. Of course you do need to be a UK registered company, limited company, and of course obviously 12 months after your first year, so you've put your accounts in from your first year, then you would be looking at putting your first R&D claim in, if you've then obviously spent the expenditure.
Just to clarify, so when we're talking about criteria, the way I read that question, so you don't have to be revenue generating, you don't have to be profit making, so you can be loss making, and you may not even be revenue generating because
Yeah.
you're doing this research and development. So
good.
you don't have to meet that type of criteria as a business, a trading business. Yeah.
Another question that's just come through from Edith J.
Edith, hello Edith.
What is the maximum a company that is an SME can claim?
There is no maximum. Depends on the expenditure that you've had, but there wouldn't be a maximum. It would depend on the expenditure that you had and if you were profit or loss making.
On the amount you'd get back, because there's
Yes.
different percentages for a profit and loss making.
Yes.
If you were too big to be classified as an SME, you would come under a different scheme, which is called an RDEX scheme. But as Edith said, she's an SME, so that as an SME, no. If you're classified as an SME.
Yeah, no, that's good. Let us know if that answered your question, Edith. Thank you for your question. Guys, keep the questions coming in. You're cutting me off on my questions, which I guess
we might not get to play the game.
I know.
It might be lunchtime, but we'll be able to play the game.
So do give me a chance to answer my questions. Oh, another question from Edith. All right.
Edith.
All right. So Edith said that I thought there is a max limit of 20k plus 300% of payee.
Oh, you're talking about the PAY cap.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a section within an R&D tax credit claim. So there is a PAYE cap that was introduced. Yeah, so she's right about that. But I thought she meant, is there an upper ceiling? Oh, I can only get 30,000 back, 40,000 back. So when we look at your qualifying expenditure, again, there's another layer of questions to ask, and there is something called PAYE cap, which our tax team will go through. And she's right, there is a max on that. Yeah. They introduced that quite recently. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. So that would essentially form part of your claim.
Okay.
Your PAYE, obviously quite a large part, your salaried cost and things like that, and then obviously subcontractors on top of that. Potentially as well, you would have included raw materials and any wastage and things like that, and all of that type of thing would be collated together. All of that collated together, there's no maximum, is what we thought you meant, Edith. But of course, yes, PAYE cap.
Okay. Once again, Edith, thank you for the question. If that helped, do let us know. If you've got any further questions, that's why we're here. Now, let me get on my questions. All right. So the next question is, can you provide some examples or eligible R&D activities that qualify for tax credits?
Okay. Yes. So for example, we deal a lot with the engineering industry. Over 50% of our clients are in the engineering industry, and we do a lot of talks within that sector. And in terms of their sort of what they're trying to advance, is that every time that they make something or create something from scratch, they try and make it better.
Yeah.
So this particular company, I could probably think back to earlier this year. They are a rubber engineering firm. So they create rubber molds of tubes that go into the manifolds of a radiator that would go into F1 cars and things like that. What they had a directive for is to always try and make it better from this F1 team. What they wanted to essentially do is to create that rubber tubing lighter and stronger. Obviously, every F1 team wants something lighter and obviously stronger so it doesn't break. Now, of course, without giving away any trade secrets for them, of course, but what they wanted to do, making it stronger, wasn't essentially working in the way that they were doing it currently, so they had to innovate a new way of doing so. And I think they switched between the proving process and probably inputted something like a 3D printer, I think, into the process, which made then eventually the proving the rubber mold around something that they'd created a lot easier, and when pulling it off, it was a lot stronger. So that time and effort that they'd made to do that, so for example, the artistic creator, the 3D editor type person that had actually made the rubber tubing and made the method and made the process from the start, and that to the person on the shop floor that is actually putting it in an oven or putting it in a 3D printer, all of that person's time, potentially even a project manager would have been involved at one point, particularly obviously if it's part of an F1 team, that's quite high level. But of course, all of those people's, their time and their effort that they've put into it, their salaries, or if it was, subcontracted out at one point, the raw materials that they've used, that is a really big part of an R&D claim nowadays.
Yeah.
The raw materials that have actually gone to waste over, proving your process. For example, it's failed several times and you've not been able to get to the answer straight away.
Yeah.
That raw material and the time and effort that the person has taken to do that, percentage of their time goes into your claim.
Yeah, no, that's a very detailed example. How do you said a percentage of their time?
Mm-hmm.
What's the maximum percentage that would be?
Well, it's never going to be 100%. So as a founder or as a project manager, it would be unrealistic to say 100% of my time was spent doing that project.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we have benchmarks for different industries, so we know them benchmarks. And so you might say, oh, we spent loads of time. Yeah, I think 95% of my time. Is that really realistic? We will challenge you as well, because we know what the benchmark would be, and we want to put together a robust claim. We want to get what we can maximum for you, but at the same time we want to do it in the right way, and we know that would be unrealistic. So we have a benchmark that we go on to look at the percentages.
Yeah, no, that's
Absolutely.
that's really good to know. That's really good. That's quite important to know.
Yeah.
I guess my next question is, how can businesses identify R&D activities within their own operations? So I'm going back to Jacob the flower guy, making all these flowers, making millions every year. I am in the process of doing some machinery work or drawing something which I think will change the world, but I actually don't know it's R&D that I'm doing. What tells can business owners utilize to be able to know that, oh, I'm actually doing R&D right now?
Yeah, great question. I think first of all, I'd love to work for Jacob the Flower Guy.
Cheers, Sam.
Because he sounds like a really good guy.
I'll accept the flowers.
But no, so what Jacob the Flower Guy needs to understand first is the projects that he's doing, and where he wants to be with those projects. So essentially put out a time scale of how he wants to get to his innovation and what he wants to do with that. The outcomes of those projects is really key. Of course, staffing and costs all need to be collated together, not essentially on a spreadsheet or anything like that, but of course collated in such a way that you'd be able to readily draw on it if you engaged a specialist, an R&D specialist. Of course, time and efforts. So was it just yourself? Was it just Jacob the Flower Guy? Was it Mel the Flower Lady as well that was involved? The time and efforts that you've put into it, and of course, most importantly, what technical challenges have you faced that have been rather difficult? So, for example, you putting that machine together, has it been straightforward? It wasn't just an IKEA furniture, so you needed to overcome technical challenges in putting that machine together for a specific reason. For example, did you need to change if it's I'm just thinking on an engineering perspective, did you need to change the blades, the grinding speed, the heat, the ferocity, things like that? Why did you do that, first of all, and what happened because you changed it?
And just sort of taking it a step back. So Jacob, you think, hang on, I'm doing something pretty cool here. No one's ever done this before. I think this is R&D. I would say, speak to a specialist, run through it. So you've got a little inkling that you think you're doing something really great and different and innovative. So at that point, let's explore more with you. Let's understand your business. Tell us about your business. Let us understand your journey, what you're doing, why you're doing it, what you want to achieve. Then we can support as appropriate. As a professional services firm.
Absolutely.
That's what I would say. So speak to your trusted advisor. Speak to someone who can provide you with that professional support and guide you, because you've got this inkling. Follow it through, and if you are able to claim, yeah, happy days. Like, we'll support you with that. And you should be rewarded for this time and great innovation that you're doing. And it's all about the economy. It's all about keeping it in the UK. That's what it's for. Like, let's grow our economy. Let's grow our ecosystem and create these great products here in the UK.
Yeah.
Otherwise, someone else will do it.
Yeah. I've got another question here, but from an audience. But before I come to that, so going back to the scenarios, the persona game. So let's say I am in. I have a property management company.
Yeah.
For example, Jacob's Property Management Company, right?
And a flower company as well.
And a flower company.
Wow.
Do you know what? Before Elon Musk became Elon Musk, he was my next door neighbor. I mentored Elon Musk.
Okay.
So I've got my own property management company, but I think of a tool which can make a difference in the property space, right? And I am jotting things down. I am speaking to some. I've not got the ability to build it, but as I'm jotting it down, I'm speaking to developers to actually begin to build something, build the idea, bring it to life, for example.
Yeah.
Once I've got a model or a tangible product, a proof of concept of the idea I have, I'm now seeking external investment to fund this thing to make it happen. And obviously I've put a lot of time into this. I've brought some people in to obviously make this proof of concept a reality. Am I someone that at that stage, am I entitled to R&D tax credit?
Potentially.
Okay.
It would all depend on the application of what you're doing, because not necessarily within the property management industry you would necessarily have a claim straight away. It's not something that HMRC would look upon and go, yeah, that's great. They'd have to genuinely have a look at that and go, what is the innovation? What have you created, and why is it better than what's there already?
Yeah.
So if you have, essentially, if you've created an app that has done something better in that industry, applications nowadays are not always R&D because there's potentially one of those out there already. So if you have then potentially created something on a property management basis that is allowing, I don't know, tenants to talk to estate agents and landlords to talk to estate agents and all collate together on one app or something like that, it could be innovative, it could be new, but why is it that it's new, and how is it that it has benefited that industry in a positive way?
Yeah.
So yes, potentially you could have a claim.
Yeah.
But at that stage, you very much should be engaging with an R&D specialist such as MPA.
Yeah.
And saying, at what stage do I then put in a claim? Do I pass my tax year from the expenditure that I've done already? Should I be putting in a claim? That type of thing.
Yeah. No, that's good to know.
So no, I wouldn't. I definitely wouldn't rule it out. Have that conversation from what you've said, and even though you've come up with a concept, but you're getting someone else to do it, that's not a reason why you still can't claim.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that doesn't rule you out just because you've set your business up. You're not the techie person. You've just thought of it. You're not going to design. You're maybe designing it, but you're not making it. That can still, you as a business owner, you can still put that claim in.
Yeah.
Potentially. It doesn't rule you out, that's for sure.
Basically ask questions.
Yeah.
Ask questions, get some clarity.
Yeah.
No, that's good to know. That's good to know. So back over to the audience questions here. I don't want to butcher your name, but I think it's Highwet. Sorry, Highwet, if I've just got your name wrong. My apologies. What are the most tax efficient structures for owning and operating a property business?
Oh my goodness.
Oh, goodness.
This is one for the team.
Yeah.
This is one for the team?
Yeah, can we take that back for the team?
Yeah. All right,
is that all right? We MPA are professional services, and we are accountants as well.
Yeah.
So we have an accountancy and tax team. Sam and I are not accountants.
No.
Yeah.
So I would not even like to attempt that question.
All right.
Tell him to send it in.
Yeah.
Send his contact details, and we'll have a sort of one-on-one
Yeah.
conversation. We can get that sorted.
That question was probably derived from Jacob's property management company, I would have thought.
Do you know what?
I think you.
No. I didn't encourage
I think
anything.
there was encouragement
Yeah.
I didn't encourage anything. Actually, that question came in, and then my train of thought.
You wanted to be
okay.
a property management.
I told you
owner.
before Elon Musk came, I was Musk. So yeah, Hewitt, we're gonna put the details of MPA later on in this conversation on the screen.
Yeah.
But if you have registered for this webinar, you'll get the information there as well. So just shoot that question over, and I'm sure someone in the team should be able to assist you. Another question here. In terms of employees' time spent on R&D qualifying projects,
Yes.
Yep.
comma,
Yeah.
Okay.
what if a business is a startup and majority of employees' time is spent on qualifying R&D projects? Can you claim 90% of the time or 100% of the time?
You could claim potentially
can,
up to 90%, although you'd have to genuinely qualify it and justify it very well.
Yeah.
And then of course, if you put 100%, they're going to need
So
specific
justification.
Yeah, massive justification.
And detail around
Yeah.
that 100%.
Yeah.
But in a startup scenario, they may be spending 100%.
Absolutely.
So it's validating
To get their
that
product
and put
right.
it in a
Yeah.
technical report. And because we're putting these claims together all the time, we know the questions that HMRC may come back and ask. So we make sure that that's all covered and answered within our technical report. So we don't get asked questions. Like, we welcome questions, but we will cover them off before we send in our report. And we'll ask you the questions as well. So you need to explain and verify to us, and we need to be happy of that percentage of time before we'll submit the report.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the only thing I'd have to add onto that as well is that just for this person's that's asked the questions information, in terms of the employee that you're trying to claim for, you are also able to claim for the PAYE costs and the tax behind the PAYE, and of course the national insurance as well.
Yeah.
In the claim.
I've got another question here from Hewitt. I'm going to ask it to see if it's another question that you should follow up with. How should I handle taxes if I plan to operate in multiple states or countries?
That's quite a broad question, I would say.
Yeah.
It depends on the countries as well. So I think we need to have a more detailed, you're aware of it. It's a question that you should be asking your accountant or advisor, tax advisor, and we can pick that up if he'd like us to. But I think that's quite a broad question, and we need to ask more questions behind that with him.
In terms of the R&D aspect about separate countries, I know that Germany have their own R&D scheme, and I know that the USA also have their own R&D scheme. But of course, obviously, that it depends where the company is registered and where they are doing the activity. So if, of course, you have a German registered company and you're doing the activity in Germany and you're just selling to the UK, then no, you won't be able to claim in the UK for R&D credits in the UK.
Yeah.
Probably won't get too complex with like the size of the business, but sometimes there could be a group of companies, so and a German part of the business. So who's doing the R&D, who's claiming the R&D. You can't claim it in Germany and in the UK. So again, we need to explore and understand your business structure, and then we can obviously advise what's right for you.
I mean, I've been to many events before that have had a UK registered company, but they're selling into Europe. Where and you are still able to claim if you're a UK company. Depends where you're doing your R&D activity though, and what for.
Yeah, I hope that answers the question. But once again, like I said before, Hewitt, if you have any pressing questions, guys, may be able to signpost you to somebody that will give you expert advice or more clarity on that question as well.
Great to raise, but I think sort of probably it's a bit more in depth than just a straight answer.
Gosh, there's loads of questions coming through. I actually need to finish my questions because time is far pressed. Any questions from TikTok? Not yet. No. That's fine. What documentation and record keeping practices are essential for businesses to support their R&D tax credit claims?
So this all gets compiled in a tech report.
Yeah. Your
accounts will need to be filed for us to be able to compile your R&D claim.
Yeah.
We would compile it with your CT 600 together with your tech report and then send that off. Your tech report, done by our technical analysts, will comprise things such as your projects and the outcomes, the technical uncertainties that you faced, staffing costs and things like that.
Yeah. All right, I've asked one question. Let me go back to the audience questions because otherwise they'll be like, this guy's not good. All right. Another question here from Edith.
Edith.
My company put on solar panels and we had difficulties connecting them to national grid. Hence, we had to create a unique connection method. Would that potentially qualify?
If you created something from scratch, then yes, potentially.
I would say more likely no, but let's explore more. That was not the typical R&D. And also, what was the cost involved? If it cost you like £500 to get the percentage back within the claim, you probably will look at your risk and reward. If that was the only qualifying expenditure, £500, just for an example, would you go through the claim process? Risk reward, probably not. But
for individual companies and individuals that want to ask questions as to how they may qualify in their industry, of course we can pick up afterwards and I can answer those specific to the industry. I suppose we're doing on a broader level. This is what the scheme is, and we welcome those questions, of course we do. But in terms of specifically going in, there's a whole bunch of questions that we'd need to ask of Edith. Hello, Edith. Before we're able to give a definitive, I suppose, yes or no.
Yeah. All right. So Edith, they're not telling you to go away.
Not at
all.
No,
they're not telling you to. They're not telling you.
We're going to talk to you more.
Yeah. They're not telling you to do one. Right. They're just saying they need to ask more questions to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it is a great question. So if once we put up the details for MPA and for Sam, and if you have registered for the webinar, you'll get all their information in the follow-up email, and shoot 1,000 questions to them. I'm telling you, shoot 1,000 questions to them, and let's see what they do.
Sam's got quite a diary next week.
Yeah. There we go. So I hope that's helped, Edith. My next question is, what are some of the common misconceptions or myths surrounding R&D tax credits, and how can businesses navigate them to ensure compliance?
Great question. Get that a lot. So first myth, very much so that we get sort of frustrated with it quite a bit, is that you can only claim if your project is successful. It's incorrect. You can claim if your project has not been successful because you are still testing and you're in the testing and trialing stage.
Yeah.
You're still creating a new product that's not been done before, but you haven't quite got to the outcome as yet. You can see the end and you know how to get there, but you might not know how to get there, but you're very much still in the testing and trialing stage. Again, that would go on to the next myth is that you're only able to claim for completed projects. Again, it's just a myth. You are able to claim for non-completed projects that have brought an advancement in your field. It might not be completed or successful. You might be in the middle of it. Your tax year is finished. You want to make a claim for that year or the year previous from the activity that you've done already. You can do so. I suppose the other myth that comes into it quite regularly as well is that your product needs to be brand new. Not necessarily. It does obviously need to be innovative and new within your field, but you can very much take something and develop it further for a different adaptation. So that's another thing. I suppose that's on the positive sort of side. That would be that you can still claim type thing. I suppose on the negative type side of a myth is that there's been a lot of commotion in the industry recently where people have come in and they've claimed for things that aren't necessarily R&D. So things like, for example, I mean, someone claimed for a blueberry muffin or something like that some time ago. I'm using, but things like that's not real innovation. It's been done before.
And I think there's been fraud, there's been incorrect, and not necessarily fraudulent claims, but incorrect claims gone in, and HMRC have been picking them up. And rightly so. They've been questioning the activity that businesses have been doing, and that's a good thing, because we want to reward the right people doing this R&D. And so I suppose, is it worth my while? It sounds all really complicated, and it's going to take me ages. I've got to record this and keep this. Is it actually worth my time and effort to put a claim in? Well, that's what we need to discuss with you. What sort of size claim one? So then again, risk reward, but also if you are doing R&D, you can be rewarded for it. So, let's see what reward you can get for the risk that you're taking within your business. So don't be put off by the due diligence surrounded by it, but that's why you need an expert to do it, to get the claim correct. Absolutely. And make sure that you are claiming for the correct amount.
Yeah, absolutely. Claiming first time through a R&D specialist is really important. They will essentially collate all of your details, put them in a robust way and put it in language that HMRC will understand. And for whatever reason, if you are doing a claim either yourself or through an accountant or through another specialist, make sure that you check that you get an inquiry support within that service. That's something that we offer completely free within our service kind of thing. So if HMRC does have any further questions, any follow-ups, they reject the claim, or they want to ask, why did you do that specifically, we would answer those questions for no further cost. Essentially, it's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, no, that's good to know. My next question is, what can startups and small businesses leverage R&D tax credits to fuel innovation and growth in their early stages? So how can startups and small businesses leverage R&D tax credits to fuel growth and innovation when they're starting off?
So the main thing that they need to do, if startups, they need to have passed their 12 months and they need to have been trading for over 12 months. Get your accounts in as soon as possible. Get them sorted with your accountant. And then once your accounts are in, speak to, potentially engage with us, beforehand, and just check whether you are doing R&D, i.e. Jacob the Flower Man. And engage with a specialist, and essentially get your claim in after your accounts have gone in. So now with the scheme changing, if you are claiming for the first time, HMRC are asking or telling that you put in a form or tell them that you're going to be claiming within 6 months of your year end.
Okay.
So that's changed, and that's a new thing. I'll come on to that in just a bit. But something that's not been needed before is that you need to, if you've not claimed before or you've not claimed for up to 3 years, you need to now tell HMRC that you are going to be putting in a claim. Pre-warn.
There are factors to consider when leveraging a claim, but you do your activity because you're doing the activity, and then you look for the claim. You don't see what qualifies as a claim, then do you know what I mean? Like you just carry on your business, then discuss what is available to you. You don't do it the other way around. So you're doing your business. There might be different things that can be tweaked, but generally you're doing that activity. Let's speak about that activity. Let's see what qualifies as an R&D tax credit claim, and then we go from there. It's not a reason, for example, to increase your payroll so that you get more of a percentage back. That would be incorrect to say. So, do what you're doing. Let's discuss it, and then go from there. But you shouldn't change the way you're doing things necessarily just to get more of a tax credit claim. That's not what it's about.
No, that's good to know. That's really good to know. I've got 2 more questions. Are there any specific industry sectors that tend to benefit more from R&D tax credits, and why?
Yes and no. So science and tech normally benefit more from R&D tax credits.
Yeah.
Obviously, an advancement in science or technology sort of, I suppose, writes itself. But I was reading the stats yesterday. I'm not going to bring them from thin air because I can't remember them. But there was a high percentage of science and technology companies claiming more so than other industries. That's not to say that other industries shouldn't be claiming. They absolutely should be if they qualify.
Yeah.
And that's what we're here today to try and promote, is that the R&D tax credit scheme is for anyone. You just have to be doing the right activity in the right way and creating an advancement. All businesses want to create an advancement for obviously the betterment of the community, or for their product or their back pocket. So the R&D scheme could potentially be right for you. Talk to us.
I suppose on the flip side, what wouldn't qualify,
Absolutely.
HMRC, whenever you set your company up, you set up a SIC code, an industry code. So if your industry code said other services, or give me another example.
There was project management or property management is one.
Yeah. What you can't, that might be a little flag for HMRC, or you may be other services, but you've done this R&D. Just look at your SIC code. Does that need to change to reflect the change in your business? That is something worth looking at, and it's quite easy to change your SIC code throughout your business life. So SIC codes are quite important when you're putting in a claim, because more questions can be asked on certain SIC codes. And we're seeing that.
So even if your business actually potentially may qualify, but because of a certain SIC code that you may have, it will just automatically flag it up.
Absolutely,
more questions will, they'll be looking.
It would be raised at HMRC, particularly nowadays. A red flag would essentially be drawn, essentially saying, we've not had many R&D claims from this industry. Let's really look at this with a magnifying glass, basically. Yeah.
Or you're saying that you are this industry, and you're doing R&D. Okay, that's perfectly acceptable, but your business activity, your industry code doesn't reflect that you would be an innovative business. So, but that's not really a reason to say you're not.
Exactly.
But that's something that we're seeing. So codes are quite important.
Absolutely. Going back to obviously Jacob, the property management man. If you've created something that's brand new and innovative, you should be claiming.
But if Jacob had a SIC code of a florist or a retailer,
exactly.
What does a retailer do that's
okay?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. All right, my final question is, what recent changes or updates have been made to the R&D tax credit regulations, and how might they impact businesses going forward?
Okay, so this can be answered in 2 ways. So the changes have come recently from the budget this year. So from the 1st of April, there's come changes. And also from the 1st of August, there's also come in changes. Now going to be the 8th of August, because HMRC have pushed it back. So first to note then, I suppose, is the 1st of April. So first of all, contractors subcontracting abroad is now, you're not going to be able to claim subcontracting costs abroad from 2024. So from April 2024 onwards, you're not going to be able to put subcontracting costs abroad or outside of the UK into your R&D claim. That's a huge area that people might not know about. So the RDEC and the SME schemes may be coming together. That's something that that's under
consultation. There's forever changes. It feels like in our world at the moment, doesn't it? Because there was changes at April 23, there's changes at August, and changes next year. The PAY cap came in last year, or not that many months ago. So there are forever changing the scheme. So it's good to speak to an advisor to get that up to date information.
So the RDEC scheme the research development expenditure credit scheme is for companies that are 500 employees plus, or you could be an SME that's part of a group that would qualify for RDEC. The RDEC has gone up, has increased, and the SME percentage has gone down. So it's something that needs to be looked at quite carefully by your provider to make sure that you're claiming what you should be claiming and no more, no less type thing. Moreover, on the changes as well, there's come to the scheme what's called an intensive R&D scheme. So if your company is your business expenditure is more than 40% on research and development, your business will qualify for an uplift on your percentage off your qualifying expenditure. So, for example,
the startup that you talked about.
Exactly, the startup. Your qualifying expenditure, if you're spending less than 40% of your business expenditure on R&D, is 18% of your qualifying expenditure. So obviously, of £100,000 worth of qualifying expenditure, that's £18,000. If your business is spending more than 40% of its expenditure on R&D, of your qualifying expenditure, that's 28%. So it's a huge uplift.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a huge uplift. If you're spending much more time on R&D, you're going to be rewarded doing so.
And then just to remember the change on the 8th of August, which is really important about the extra information, Sam.
The additional information form, yeah, absolutely. So with the additional information form, this will comprise of things that you need to nominate a senior officer within your company. You need to put details together of business expenditure and it's essentially a cover letter to your report. You are claiming X amount and Y. You need to put your senior officer on there, and most importantly, also if you've got someone like MPA that's acting as an agent for you, you need to put that agent's details down as well.
Yeah, no, that's extremely informative. Extremely informative. So that brings us to an end of today's very, very, very educational webinar. We're going to put on the screen how people can get in contact with you specifically, Sam and MPA, and everybody that did register for this webinar, you will receive a follow-up email with some more information from MPA as well. Do you guys just want to talk about what MPA do a bit more, just for those that may have missed it? Quite quickly and quite briefly what you guys do.
So we're a professional services firm. We have our office at Cranfield Innovation Centre. So those that are listening that are local to Bedfordshire, Buckinghamshire, we have our premises at Cranfield University, which I think is key to the types of businesses we support and like to engage with.
Absolutely.
So we have an accountancy and tax team, so we can support with all the statutory compliance work that you may need for your business, but we're here also to help with the other things to support your growth, like R&D tax credits, patent box. If you're going out for investment, get yourself investment ready with schemes like SEIS, EIS. We work with grants, doing grant audits, and our partners as well to support with funding regarding grants. So we're all about innovation, we're all about growth, and supporting you on that journey, whether it be modelling your business, valuations for your business, strategy, planning for your exit, that type of business support. Have I missed anything?
No, I don't think so. I think,
do you put the details
apart from
on
the
the screen?
fact that of course we'd love to host you at our brand new offices in Cranfield, of course, and the fact that we've recently just acquired another firm of financial directors who have taken us to over 120 employees now. So we've sort of doubled in size recently, and the finance directors have really helped sort of solidify our place in the market, and sort of we're building on that really as we speak.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, so if you guys want to, as you see on the screen there, got some details about MPA. We're going to be following up with another email for everyone that registered for the webinar as well. Other than that, I want to thank you, Mel, and thank you, Sam.
Thanks for
with
having
your
us.
absolutely amazing trim for joining us today. No,
goodness.
I actually like your trim. I'm not even taking
I didn't like it in the picture.
I
was trying something, it didn't go well.
Thank you guys for joining us today. If you do have any follow-up questions, go ahead and leave it on any of the platforms that you're watching and listening to this on, and we will make sure to forward them to Sam and to Mel, and they will be in touch as well. So thank you for joining us on today's episode of UKBF Talks. Join us next week, where we're going to be focusing on motivation, focus, and making sure that you are doing everything that you need to do to accomplish your business goals. It's going to be another great webinar, so there's going to be more information on that. So stay tuned, and I hopefully should see you next week. Have a great day.
Start by creating a plan.